At an abandoned factory, Mystery Inc. sets a trap to catch the lunar ghost. Unlike usual, when Scooby-Doo and Shaggy are chosen to be the bait, this time it is Daphne's turn. While Velma and Fred prepare to activate the trap, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy accidentally reveal their location. As a result, the lunar ghost does not hesitate to set fire to the barrel, which forces them to jump up immediately. While Scooby-Doo keeps doing silly things, Shaggy realizes the ghost is right behind him. Meanwhile, Velma activates the trap, but she does not expect the oil barrel to fall under Scooby-Doo and Shaggy. Then Fred gets knocked off balance when Scooby-Doo and Shaggy accidentally bump into him. As a result, Velma and Fred fall into their own trap. At the same time, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy find a skateboard and try to escape. Even though the path is full of traps, they somehow make it through. Seeing there is no way out, Shaggy tells Scooby-Doo to grab the hook. Because of a single moment of carelessness, the lunar ghost gets defeated by Scooby-Doo and Shaggy. Once everything is under control, the police finally arrive, followed by the fans of Mystery Inc. run and asking for autographs. Pam, who is an old friend of the team and the owner of the factory, says she called them as soon as she saw the lunar ghost. Meanwhile, Fred rushes in to pull off the ghost's mask, and it turns out to be Mr. Smithers, the factory janitor. He disguises himself as the lunar ghost just because Pam refused to go on a date with him. As for the lunar ghost being able to fly, Velma stands up and explains it clearly. Just fill some balloons around the body with helium and he can float in the air. Even though the mystery is solved, the gang starts to fall apart. Daphne can't stand being the bait. Velma can't stand having her work stolen by Fred. Fred wouldn't give in either. Their egos pile up as high as the Eiffel Tower, and in the end, they all walk away in different directions. The team officially breaks up right in front of Scooby-Doo and Shaggy, making both of them sad. Soon 2 years pass like the wind. Scooby-Doo and Shaggy keep living their wandering life in the Mystery Machine. But today, everything changes when suddenly a mailman shows up and says, "My boss wants to invite you two to his amusement park on Spooky Island." Shaggy replies, "Sorry, we gave up being detectives a long time ago." The mailman keeps making tempting offers like $10,000 and free plane tickets, but for Scooby-Doo and Shaggy, money means nothing. It's not until he mentions they can eat as much food as they want that they finally say yes. Meanwhile, Velma and Fred are heading to the airport when they run into each other by chance. Fred is now a celebrity autobiographer and Velma is a NASA employee, but what surprises them more is that Daphne is also there. Not only that, she is now a martial arts expert. It turns out all members of Mystery Inc. received letters from the mysterious owner of Spooky Island. Since dogs aren't allowed on the plane, Scooby-Doo has to dress up as Shaggy's grandma. Later, everyone boards the flight, and sitting with them are a bunch of college students who are in their rebellious phase. Though the plane is noisy and chaotic, Shaggy's attention lands right on the eyes of Mary Jane, who immediately catches his heart. He invites her to sit next to him, but since Mary Jane is allergic to dogs, Shaggy's grandma has to switch seats. Scooby-Doo quickly moves to sit beside Fred, but right next to him is a cat. Dogs and cats fighting is nothing new, so before long Scooby-Doo starts barking loudly. Fred steps in to calm him down, but he doesn't expect Scooby-Doo to fight back. After a turbulent flight, the gang finally arrives at the spooky theme park. There they meet its owner, Emil Mondavarius. Mystery Inc. is surprised that the man looks more funny than scary, which is the opposite of what the island name suggests. Emil Mondavarius gets straight to the point, saying he believes someone is casting spells on the students. People come and go, but when they return they seem totally different. One guy notices his friend acting completely changed after hanging out on the island. The girl who used to smile all the time now wears a cold, serious face. Emil Mondavarius hopes Mystery Inc. can solve this as soon as possible, but he doesn't expect them to split up and go their own ways. At night, Velma participates in a ritual of a group of strangers. She is asking about the situation when suddenly their leader appears. Ngu Twana introduces the henchman beside him named Zarkos. Then he declares the island is cursed and has become a gateway into the supernatural world. Hundreds of years ago, this place used to be a shelter for monsters, but 10 years ago, Emil Mondavarius bought Spooky Island and turned it into a theme park. That decision is no different from directly confronting the monsters. Meanwhile, Scooby-Doo, Shaggy, and Mary Jane are taking a walk when Scooby-Doo suddenly gets a phone call. The voice on the other end says there is a giant hamburger in the darkest part of the forest that needs to be handled. As soon as he hears the word hamburger, Scooby-Doo runs off to find it. On the other side, Daphne is looking for clues when she accidentally discovers a strange man. Just as the voodoo maestro is about to begin his ritual, he gets interrupted by Daphne's voice. She tells him that she's searching for clues about the one who is pulling the strings behind the strange behavior of the students, but the voodoo maestro only tells her to leave this place as soon as possible and to never ever go near the spooky island castle. Even though he is being honest, Daphne thinks he is speaking metaphorically, so she decides to enter the castle. At the same time, Scooby-Doo is wandering through the forest and finds the giant hamburger, but he doesn't expect to run into a real monster. At first it's a bit silly, but soon Scooby-Doo manages to trick the monster into climbing a tree and sends it far away. He quickly runs back and tells Shaggy about the monster, but when they show up, all they see is a bunny who just wants to party. After that, Daphne asks Scooby-Doo and Shaggy for help to enter the castle. At first they both refuse, but Daphne had anticipated this, so she asks Scooby-Doo and Shaggy if they want to eat Scooby snacks, and Scooby-Doo immediately shows off his kung fu moves to say yes. So the three of them head inside and happen to meet Fred, who is also investigating the castle. They also run into Velma, who is disguised as a statue and almost gives Daphne a heart attack. Finally, the Mystery Inc. gang reunites, but the distance between them remains. Their big egos still push them to act alone. Then Scooby-Doo and Shaggy discover their own little heaven when they see a table full of food in front of them. Velma and Fred keep digging for clues without knowing that someone is secretly watching them. Meanwhile, Daphne finds a suspicious clue and quickly uses all her strength to push the door open. But at that moment, the stranger activates a secret mechanism inside the castle. A roller coaster cart suddenly appears behind her and pulls her away. Meanwhile, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy haven't even taken a bite before they get pinned to the wall. In front of Velma and Fred, obstacles keep popping up and a cart is approaching fast from behind, forcing them to run forward. In no time, Velma and Fred are cornered. In desperation, Velma tells Fred to flip through the books to find a hidden switch. But while searching, Fred accidentally falls off. Velma throws him a book to defend himself, and when Fred lands, he hits a control lever which ends up saving Scooby-Doo, Shaggy, and Daphne. Velma also finds the right book and opens the secret mechanism. Even though they make it into the heart of the enemy's hideout, Fred and Velma still have no idea who the stranger is. Here they stumble upon a strange video showing how teenagers should behave. When two teens accidentally bump into each other, they immediately start yelling. They shouldn't act like that, instead they should forgive and become friends. Velma quickly realizes this might be a brainwashing facility, and wherever there's a brainwashed community, there must be someone with a dark ambition. Meanwhile, Daphne accidentally discovers a room containing a sacred artifact. She doesn't know what it's for, but the strange carvings tell her it must be something very important to the villains. Just as she takes it, the stranger sets off an emergency alarm. Gutwana quickly appears with his subordinates, but he doesn't know that the Mystery Inc. team has disguised themselves as statues and already escaped. Right after they leave, the gang successfully gets out of the castle. They then run into Emil Mondavarius again. Based on the clues they've found, there are now three suspects. First is Ngutwana, who believes Emil built the theme park on sacred land. Second is Voodoo Maestro, who tricked Daphne into entering the castle. And third is Emil himself, as he owns the island. But Fred quickly says they're just joking, which makes Emil confused by the weird comment. After that, Velma starts investigating the sacred artifact, not knowing that Ngutwana is already watching her closely. Suddenly, a guy shows up and asks Velma what she's doing. Seems like she really enjoys this research work. Velma honestly replies that it reminds her of the golden days of Mystery Inc. Back then, they even had a sixth member, that's Scrappy-Doo, but because of his childish and impulsive personality, always trying to show off like he's afraid of nothing, plus an ego even taller than the Eiffel Tower, the group had no choice but to kick him out. Meanwhile, Scooby-Doo is just chilling when suddenly he spots a familiar figure. At first, Fred thinks Scooby-Doo is just seeing things, so he boldly says there's no such thing as monsters. As a result, the next second, a monster massively attacked the amusement park on the Spooky Island theme park. As soon as it caught Fred, it blew a poisonous substance that made Fred faint. Next, it was Velma's turn when the monster politely helped her pick up her glasses, and like Fred, Velma didn't believe this was a monster, so she wanted to unmask it. As a result, Velma was also blown with a poisonous substance that made her faint. On the other hand, Daphne's attention accidentally bumped into Ngutwana. Both of them want the sacred artifact, but Daphne is quicker and snatches it first. She then rushes to protect Emil Mondavarius, but he gets dragged underground by a monster. While all this is happening, Scooby-Doo is hiding in a suitcase, but the monster figures out that he's insulting its intelligence, so it drags the suitcase out. Scooby-Doo panics and runs, accidentally reuniting with the rest of the gang. With no other choice, they crash through a glass wall to escape and luckily land safely on a tarp below. The two monsters saw that and jumped after them, and as a result broke a few bones. After destroying the theme park, the monsters suddenly retreat. Scooby-Doo, Shaggy, Daphne, and Mary Jane follow them and see them disappear behind a door near where Ngutwana was. They immediately contact the Coast Patrol, and the staff immediately arranges to meet at the port of the spooky island. The next morning, the four are sleeping when sunlight wakes them up, but what shocks them most is that the island looks completely normal again, like the chaos never even happened. Even the college teenagers are back to partying, so the group splits up to look for Velma and Fred. Shaggy and Scooby-Doo soon realize something's off when Fred doesn't even remember their names. And not just that, Fred and the others are acting super weird, almost exactly like those monsters from the night before. They quickly corner Scooby-Doo and Shaggy into an old house. In that moment of panic, they get lucky and find two off-road vehicles to escape. While running away, they accidentally run into Mary Jane walking out from the bushes. She says her friend has also been hypnotized and asks for a ride. Scooby-Doo and Shaggy happily agree, having no idea that Mary Jane has also been hypnotized. Then they stop in front of the door near Ngutwana. Scooby-Doo starts to realize something's wrong with Mary Jane, but Shaggy doesn't believe it. As a result, an argument breaks out between the two, causing Scooby-Doo to accidentally fall into a hole. Even though Shaggy doesn't know what's down there, he jumps in after him because it's his best friend. Down below, he finds a container holding the souls of the college students. He picks one at random, and it turns out to be Velma. She tells him that all he needs to do is let go and her soul will find its body on its own. In no time, Velma's soul returns to her body, forcing the monster to escape. Velma now realizes that these monsters can't survive under sunlight, so they need to possess human bodies. Meanwhile, Shaggy finds Fred's soul, but before his soul can enter his body, he is hit by a door. On the other hand, Shaggy does not expect to find Daphne's soul. It turns out that the bad guys have ambushed Daphne to steal the sacred artifact. At the same time, Velma also knows that Daphne's soul has been stolen, so she pushes Daphne's body into a room and opens the window curtains to destroy the monster inside. But she doesn't know that the soul is Fred's, not Daphne's. Meanwhile, Fred's body is moving when it accidentally hits Daphne's soul. Without planning, the mystery gang ends up reuniting with all four members. Shaggy quickly takes out the sacred artifact and hopes it can help somehow. The result is that their souls return to their original bodies, but just as they're about to celebrate, an explosion shakes the ground. They rush toward the source and see Voodoo Maestro. Daphne asks him what he's doing, and he replies that he's performing a curse ritual. I have a feeling the villains are about to begin the dark ritual. Legend says that once it's completed, monsters will rule the earth for the next 10,000 years. Based on the ancient symbols on the sacred artifact, it says they'll need one pure soul. Now Mystery Inc. realized that they don't necessarily need the soul of a human, so it can only be the soul of Scooby-Doo, and the only one who could bring Scooby-Doo to the main island is Emil Mondavarius. Meanwhile, Scooby-Doo is being brainwashed by Emil Mondavarius, who promises him unlimited Scooby snacks as long as he just sits still. On the other hand, the Mystery Inc. decides to reunite to save their best friend Scooby-Doo. Fred quickly comes up with a plan and starts setting the cave with some tools. In no time, they finish setting up the traps and now only have one job left, which is to tie the rope to the barrel. But clumsy Shaggy accidentally ties it to himself and causes trouble for the other three. Not only that, he also bumps into one of the guards by accident. Right at that moment, the villains begin the dark ritual. They form a circle around the barrel that contains the souls of many teenagers. Velma and Fred try to blend in by dancing along, but they have no idea it's all part of the villain's plan. Emil Mondavarius already predicted this and sets up a fake performance to lure Velma and Fred into participating. He even wants them to witness the glorious moment he becomes the ruler of the world. But what he doesn't know is that Shaggy has disguised himself as one of the henchmen to get closer to Scooby-Doo. "I'm really sorry for not trusting you," Shaggy says. "It wasn't until you were gone that I realized how much you mean to me." Hearing Shaggy's sincere apologies from the heart made Scooby-Doo touched, but before they can make their comeback, Scooby-Doo's soul is stolen by Ngutwana. Then Emil Mondavarius absorbs all the souls to become stronger than ever. But how can Shaggy turn a blind eye? So he ran to rescue Scooby-Doo's soul. Even though the soul is now free, it still messes around a bit before returning to the body. Meanwhile, Velma and Fred rush toward Emil Mondavarius to take back the sacred artifact. Fred quickly realizes he's wearing a mask and pulls it off. Everyone does not expect the person behind all this to be Scrappy-Doo. He's filled with hatred toward the Mystery Inc. for kicking him out, so he came up with a plan to take over the world. With his new power, Scrappy-Doo completely transformed when he was no longer a small dog. He quickly ordered everyone to capture Mystery Inc. to take revenge. Meanwhile, Daphne climbs out of the cave to carry out the final step. She is trying to pull the lever of the ventilation hole when Gutwana's subordinate Zarkos shows up. But he doesn't expect Daphne to be a true martial arts master who can use many fighting styles. Even though he is way bigger than her, Daphne still manages to defeat him. Meanwhile, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy are running away from Scrappy-Doo while Velma and Fred try to approach Gutwana but are blocked by his henchmen. With just one rope, Fred knocks them all down. Scooby-Doo and Shaggy are cornered by Scrappy-Doo and Mary Jane. At the same time, Daphne is being overpowered by Zarkos, but she has had enough of being the bait, so she fights back and finally takes him down. She ends the fight with a perfect 180-degree spin kick that sends Zarkos flying through the ventilation shaft and crashing into the barrel filled with souls. Then she drops the chandelier to destroy the monsters escaping from the teenagers' bodies. Although Scrappy-Doo is at a disadvantage, he still won't shut up, so Shaggy decides to teach him a lesson. When the sacred artifact falls off Scrappy's body, he turns back into his tiny form. Just then, Shaggy hears a knocking sound from somewhere. It turns out the real Emil Mondavarius has been trapped in the basement for 2 years after Scrappy-Doo took his place. After that, the police arrive to clean up the mess and Mystery Inc. is honored as heroes. But this time is different when they finally put aside their egos and come back together as a team.